So what all this means, though, and Sam Altman wrote about this on his Moore's Law for Everything blog post, I think it was in 2021, and I've been talking about it. Other people have been talking about it. Some economists have actually been talking about this since the 90s, actually. I don't remember the name of the guy, but someone basically said, like, okay, let's just predict where this is going, and if we give rise to robots and automation, well, then capital becomes the centerpiece of the economy. And so by definition, if you move away from labor, so post-labor means hyper-capitalism. And I know that a lot of people are like, oh, capitalism bad. But I don't mean capitalism in terms of what you, like the corporatism that we see today. Because I think what most people really kind of balk at is the corporatism, not necessarily capitalism. We need capital to function. And capital is, the buildings, the cars, the data centers,
I think capitalism is good, and it's probably definitely the better path than the alternatives, but it also definitely has a lot of bad parts that have risen their heads recently with new technology especially, because it's easy. Well, their main goal is money. So if you fool people to get their money, that's fine, because that's your main goal and you've achieved that. So you have people that are on the edge of being fraudsters in certain companies, or people that are CEOs that could tell a lot of mistruths or lies to increase their stocks or to make their companies have higher stocks, really, because what are the stocks? Stocks is all the confidence in the company. If you bullshit, then people are going to be like, oh, okay, yep, that company's, it's great, it's good. This person says that they're going to do this and they're going to do that, but really their time frames are way off, or they're just non-existent and they're never going to achieve the thing that they're supposed to achieve, and then they just gain the money from their stocks, because that's what CEOs do. They get their money from their stocks. So that's kind of the downside of the capitalism thing, and that's where with the internet, new technology, YouTube, all the social media platforms, they have a bigger reach, so they can take advantage of a lot more people and have a lot more influence on the world. So people can fall for it a lot easier these days than what they used to be able to. So that's kind of a thing that's going to drag humans back from advancements, I think. That's what I think anyway. And that is a problem with capitalism, is that it's very money focused. I'm not saying it's not good, it's good, it's great, but that's a downfall to it, because people can be shady, especially some CEOs.
Tractors, all the big heavy equipment and other capital intensive things for the means of production. You can't have anti-capitalism because chip fabs are big and expensive, data centers are big and expensive, fusion reactors are big and expensive. So all those big and expensive things means that we will forever be a capitalist society, but we can change the way that we orient towards these things. And so if human labor goes away, then that frees us up, gives us a lot more mental bandwidth to do things like invest in alternative ownership models. So I did a kind of a community survey where I asked, like, okay, what does socialism mean to you? You know, the big scary S word. But basically, like, there's not a lot of agreement. But I think that it's going to be kind of a forced issue. And so what I mean is that because of these tectonic shifts of the fourth industrial revolution, we are going to get fundamentally new affordances. We're going to get new possibilities as to what we can do, such as decentralized ownership, such as socialized ownership, and such as collective ownership for various asset classes, whether it's land, whether it's data centers, whether it's robots, whether it is corporations. You know, a lot of people talk about sovereign wealth funds, employee-owned co-ops, that sort of stuff. The combination of AI, blockchain, crypto, you know, quantum computing, robots, all these other things, basically means that we can spend those cognitive cycles, instead of doing the job, we can spend those cognitive cycles working together to organize things. Because consensus is very slow and painful, and it takes a while, and it takes a lot of specific skills. So this is one of the reasons that I constantly tell people, learn communication skills, gain emotional intelligence. That is going to set you up, one, just for your relationships in the rest of your life, but also in a meaning economy, in a hyper-capitalist, decentralized economy, your ability to advocate for yourself and communicate with other humans and build coalitions is going to be how you get stuff.
So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to communicate with people and build coalitions. And so far I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0 viewers over the whole extent of the live stream. I don't care. This is my very small channel, so I enjoy having no one here.
Done. Now, this is going to be very disruptive, and it's going to be a very different orientation towards it. And a lot of people will just check out because, again, if we have AGI, ASI, whatever, you can have a personal robot or a personal agent go advocate on your behalf. You don't have to participate if you don't want to, but you can. And this leads to kind of the key principle that I'm always talking about in terms of how do we make sure that people can participate in the future? How do we make sure that people have money to spend on this grand new economy that we're building? And that concept is economic agency. So economic agency is kind of the key new metric that I want to see. And there's already some metrics like Gini coefficient and other things, but really what we need to do is focus on the economic agency of individuals. Right now, under neoliberalism and corporatism, we prioritize the economic agency of corporations over people. And that is because corporations are the engines of productivity that make sure that you have food and blah, 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 blah. However, in the future, when we have a hyperabundance of energy, a hyperabundance of manual labor, a hyperabundance of cognitive labor, it'll be a lot easier to produce all the basic goods and services that we need. And so it's like, oh, hey, we need a new house, so a swarm of robots goes and builds it in a day, right? Like, we're already seeing houses that are 3D printed in a day. Now imagine that like literally every house 10 or 20 years from now.
If this is the path that we end up going on and we end up actually seeing in the future, it's going to be very interesting, the shift in all companies and jobs and trades, and because everything's going 20 years isn't a very long time. So all these shifts and changes are going to happen very rapidly. So it's going to be very interesting to just watch all that play out. Like what's going to happen if you're a builder, or if you're in some company, an energy company where you focus on fossil fuels or whatever else, then fusion technology comes along. It's just like your company is going to go obsolete, your stocks are going down, you're going to lose your job. And like I think the big issue with this whole path, with this future, is the impact it's going to have on people initially. That's going to be pretty dramatic. What are people going to do? They're going to be out of their jobs. They're not going to be able to work, or even companies are going to go bust, and then big companies are going to go bust. This is going to be big. This is going to be crazy. It's going to be hectic. It's going to be hectic to watch if it goes down this path. What does the bad path look like? I don't want to say that.
Now is literally built in just a few hours by a swarm of robots. And it's not going to be like, humanoid robots. They might look like spiders and other things and tractors or whatever. But my point is that what we need to focus on in this economic future, especially as jobs go away, the key thing that we need to shore up is economic agency for individuals. Now, what is economic agency? Economic agency is the centerpiece of the new social contract that I've been working on. And so basically this says your ability to influence your economic fate or your economic destiny. So that means things like property rights. That means tax policies, redistribution policies, universal basic income, universal basic services, new orientations towards the distribution and allocation of capital. Like I said, right now, everything favors corporations. This is why we have employment at will states. This is why we have tax policies that favor incorporation and those sorts of things. But what we really need to do is actually make citizens the highest priority of the economy. Because again, the complexity of corporations is probably going to go away.
I think that makes sense, and what he's talking about as well, and the complexity of corporations if they do go away. And it's like I was just talking about, that people are going to lose their jobs. People need some sort of income. People need to get by, and it's not going to be a small portion of the population in first world countries, or even all around the world. It's going to be a lot of people. So to keep even the economy running, there's going to have to be income that's distributed to the everyday person that doesn't have a job or doesn't work anymore. Because I think you're going to create... I don't know if you're going to create mega corporations, though, because they're going to gain all this technology and they're going to be the ones that take advantage of it, and they're going to get so much more power and money. And that's where they'll need everyday people that have lost their jobs and are not working anymore, because there's going to be many of them, to have an income. I think that's how I see it in my head. I could be wrong.